A few days ago, the state of Louisiana mandated the 10 Commandments be shown in all schools in the state, which, to be clear, is nakedly unconstitutional, but we'll get to that in a moment, because Donald Trump saw this unconstitutional act, and he took to Truth Social, writing, "I love the 10 Commandments in public schools, private schools, and many other places. For that matter, read it. How can we as a nation go wrong? This may be, in fact, the first major step in the revival of religion, which is desperately needed in our country. Bring back TTC MAGA 2024. Okay, first off, let's not ignore the elephant in the room. Donald Trump is currently awaiting sentencing in a trial regarding his hush money payout for an affair he had while his wife was at home with their infant son. So when the 10 Commandments include not committing adultery, does Trump get some kind of a carve-out for that? Trump was just found liable for committing fraud with his taxes and bank loans to the tune of $500 million in court. So when the 10 Commandments include not stealing, does Trump get a carve-out for that? Trump lies every time he opens his mouth, and the Washington Post recorded over 30,000 lies while he was in office. So when the 10 Commandments warn against bearing false witness, does that include a carve-out for Donald Trump? I could go on, but you get the point. If you were scientifically engineering a human being whose beliefs and actions fail to comport even slightly with any of the 10 Commandments, out would emerge Donald Trump himself. And anyone pretending that that's not the case is either lying to you or lying to themselves. And this has been a recurring theme. Trump has consistently exploited religion to curry favor with evangelicals for their votes, despite not knowing or caring zero about the teachings of that same religion. For example, this clip pretty much sums all of it up.
Okay. You mentioned the Bible. You've been talking about how it's your favorite book. And you said, I think last night in Iowa, some people are surprised that you say that. I'm wondering what one or two of your most favored Bible verses are, and why.
I wouldn't want to get into it because to me that's very personal. You know, when I talk about the Bible, it's very personal. So I don't want to get into verses. I don't want to get into.
There's no verse that means a lot to you that you think about or cite?
The Bible means a lot to me, but I don't want to get into specifics.
Even to cite a verse that
you
like?
No, I don't want to do that.
You're an Old Testament guy or a New Testament guy?
Probably equal. I think it's just an incredible, the whole Bible is an incredible, I joke very much so. They always hold up the Art of the Deal. I say my second favorite book of all time. But I just think the Bible is just something very special.
Here's a quote in the Bible to warn you about people like Donald Trump. "Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves." Here's another point worth bringing up. Louisiana is currently ranked 46th in healthcare, 47th in education, 49th in economy, 49th in infrastructure, 50th in maternal mortality, and 50th in crime. So maybe, just maybe, the state should focus on something other than shoving religion down kids' throats. Maybe the money that it would take to install religious propaganda in every classroom would be better spent on your crumbling infrastructure or health outcomes or crime rate or economy or education system or quite literally anything other than proselytizing children. Now, as for the 10 Commandments in school, as I mentioned before, nakedly unconstitutional. First of all, we already have court precedent in Stone versus Graham in which the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the 10 Commandments being displayed in schools was unconstitutional and served no educational function. They also violate the separation of church and state and the Establishment Clause of the Constitution, which, for all of those conservative textualists out there, is the amendment that comes just before the Second Amendment. Here's voting rights attorney Mark Elias making exactly that point.
No, it's not constitutional. And first of all, let me correct one thing. What they want to do is put a version of the 10 Commandments on in every classroom, a particular Christian version of the 10 Commandments. It is not the same. People who don't know this don't realize that not all versions of the 10 Commandments are the same. There is a Jewish version of the 10 Commandments. There is a version of the 10 Commandments that the Catholic Church uses. Different Protestant denominations have slightly different wording and order to these, as is the case between the Jewish version and the dominant Christian version. So this is not just the 10 Commandments. This is a 10 Commandments that is taking a theological point of view. It is not only favoring religion, it is favoring a particular version of religion. So no, it is not constitutional. It violates the Constitution in two respects. The first is a ban on the establishment of religion, which was intended to not just say that you can't discriminate between religion and non-religion, but most importantly at the time, between religious sects, right? Remember, most of the people who came to the United States initially were fleeing a dominant religious interpretation and coming here to celebrate a different religious interpretation. And this would clearly violate that. The second is the much more traditional, separation of church and state idea. The idea that the state should not be promoting religion as a whole versus non-religion. But let me say finally, and you can tell I feel very passionately about this, this is a state that doesn't educate its children, right? This is a state that is failing the children of Louisiana. This is not, number one, number two, number three in public education in the country. This is not a state that is leading in test scores in the country. And rather than spending money to improve the education that all Louisiana's children get, they are spending their money on this. They're spending their money on this because they want to promote a particular Christian national agenda, and it is going to be struck down by the courts.
In fact, Louisiana's governor was pressed on this exact issue of his state's failing schools, and here's the word salad that he offered up.
What's the goal? Because it's not as if this is going to be taught in every school and classroom. This is just being displayed on the walls. So my question to you is, how is this going to improve the school environment and the performance of kids in those schools? When, Governor, I pull up the report cards of these public schools, and Louisiana is struggling. I mean, it is at the bottom of the country. The education system is failing these kids. I mean, Louisiana's 44th in math and reading. So is this going to help what is a very big problem in Louisiana?
Look, I think it's part and parcel for helping kids anywhere around the country if other states followed our suits. But at the same time that we signed that bill into law, we signed a string of others. I signed 20 bills, including this one, to reform Louisiana schools. Look, 20 years ago, the state of Florida had the same statistics that you just rattled off that Louisiana now has. They went through a number of educational reforms. We took up some of the things that many of those states like Florida have done, and we signed those into law. We just believe that displaying historical documents, especially something that is as important as the Ten Commandments. Look, when the Supreme Court meets, the doors of the Supreme Court on the backside have the Ten Commandments. Moses faces the U.S. Speaker of the House in the House chamber. He is the original giver of law. Most of our laws in this country are founded on the Ten Commandments. What's the big problem, Sandra? That's the part that I don't understand.
Oh, wait, I'm just challenging you just to get your response. It's not my take on the situation, but you know that
I know.
So, I don't know, maybe if I was the leader of a state ranked at the literal bottom on nearly every significant metric, my focus might be on anything else other than pushing unconstitutional theology onto kids. But hey, maybe that's why I'm not a Republican official. So look, here's the deal. This isn't a fluke, it is a warning. Donald Trump has already voiced support for this. Constitutionality be damned. The goal of these MAGA Republicans is to usher in an era of Christian nationalism. They don't care about the First Amendment. They don't care about the separation of church and state. They want to impose their religious edicts onto the rest of us. They will strip away reproductive rights because they are theocrats. They will strip away religious protections because they are theocrats. They will strip away LGBT rights because they are theocrats. This is the warning. They're not hiding it. So at this point, the onus is on us to listen to the warning because they're telling us what they'll do. Our job is to listen. I've got a really exciting announcement. I've written a book. It's called Shameless. This book explores how Republicans have exploited their historical branding while attacking our democracy, how the media has proven itself a willful participant, and how Democrats can learn from this to rebalance the political scales and save our democracy. It has been a lifelong dream of mine to write my own book, and so I'd like to ask you to pre-order it by clicking the link right here on the screen. And if you buy within this pre-order period, your book is going to come with a signed nameplate. As you know, I've never had a single sponsor on my channel. I don't ask for money or anything like that, but if you're looking for a way to support me, this is hands down the best way to do it. So again, follow the link right here on the screen, and thank you from the bottom of my heart for pre-ordering Shameless. And as always, make sure to subscribe to see more of my content.